All right, this is Jeff Zimmerman with FightNews.com. I'm with the legendary Hall of Famer Mark Too Sharp Johnson. How you doing, Too Sharp?
Man, I'm doing great, man. I'm enjoying myself. I had a lot of good fights yesterday.
Well, before we get into the fights, first off, I got to give you a better intro, man. You're the first flyweight African-American Hall of Famer, three-time world champ, and you might be the funniest guy in boxing.
Because everybody my cousin.
Because everybody's your cousin.
But let me say this. The first African-American flyweight and super flyweight twice in the history of boxing. The youngest international boxing Hall of Fame. So I just want to say one thing, man, I got to shout my own self out sometimes, because a lot of people don't understand the story, you know what I mean?
So let's start there then, Too Sharp. Tell your story, because you are a legend in the sport. You are the youngest Hall of Famer, and you're at a time when the little giants that they're affectionately called didn't get as much love as they're getting today. So talk about your story and how you got into boxing and became who you are.
I think but let me say this, my dad had a boxing team. My brother went to the 84, 88, and 92 Olympic trials, my oldest brother. He lost to, well, actually, I was the youngest person in the 88 Olympic trials. My brother was, he lost to Michael Carbajal, you know what I mean? However, I lost to Irv Griffin, and they supposed to reinstate me because Irv Griffin tested positive for marijuana. But with the politics of boxing, they said they wasn't going to let me and my brother go in there, wasn't going to give us another chance. However, so I started my career at the LA Forum. When I went out there, I paid my own way.
You're from DC. You're from DC.
From DC. I paid my own way to LA, paid my own hotel, and I told them, y'all don't even have to pay me. And I beat a guy, good guy. Then they brought me back out there to lose, really, to Raton Jimenez, who was number 2 in the nation, who just lost to UL Bochkov for the WBC world title. So they thought they was, sicking me to the dogs. I was like, but I'm going to beat them. And I did. But I will say this, when it came to the boxing sport, when I say the little big dogs, I mean, you got to look at guys like, Michael Carbajal, Chiquita Gonzalez, Danny Romero. All this was right there. And that same picture, Johnny Tapia. You know what I mean? But I was the number 1 contender for Danny Romero, and he vacated the belt, didn't want to fight me. So if I won the 112-pound title, I moved up to 115. I was the number 1 contender for Johnny Tapia. He vacated the belt. He didn't want to fight. You know what I mean? So I just think that all these guys that had a lot of good records, you know what I mean? Like, even though I'm in the Hall of Fame, but I feel like I could have been a better guy if I'd have fought those guys. I feel like Michael Carbajal, he knew me from the amateurs, and I told him after the Chiquita Gonzalez fight, whoever won this fight, I want to fight you. I don't care about the belts. If I beat you, I'll give you your belts back. You know what I mean? So I was chasing everybody.
You felt like you were avoided.
I was avoided by everybody, but I think at the same point, with the LA Forum, I don't think they had more muscle than a lot of other promoters. See, at that time, Top Rank had the muscle. So I kind of got ducked by everybody. You know what I mean? So a lot of those paydays that Michael Carbajal and Herberto Gonzalez got, those $1 million paydays for the first flyweights, I should have been there. You know what I mean? So, but, things happen.
And you're a southpaw too, which, talk about your style and why you were so difficult to fight.
Well, you got to understand one thing. When you got a guy that can box and bang and he a left-hander, that's all the things, the attributes that, guess what, I want to get away from this guy. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen, you see a lot of southpaws now, and I look at these guys like, man, this is crazy. But when I fought all these guys like Cecilio Espino, these guys was world champion. Arthur Johnson knocked these guys out in 1 or 2 rounds. World champion. So I feel like, they knew what they was doing, and boxing got a stronghold on it. I call boxing, to me, boxing is like, well, I shouldn't really want to say this, but anyway, I'm gonna leave that alone. But boxing is like it's like the governor of. I feel like it's like I'm, I'm trying to use the right word because I don't want to use the wrong word. Boxing is like the monsters. So you're not with the right promoter, you're not gonna get the right fight. Which means that
Mhm.
if you're not with the right family, you're not gonna get the right fight. If you're not with the right manager, you're not gonna get the right fight. I feel like I was with the LA Foom. That's why I didn't get the right fight.
And you've said that you felt like if you were with a big promoter throughout your career, you would have been in bigger fights.
I think I would have been in bigger fights. I'd have been better in bigger fights, better fights, and I could have showed really a lot of people um, how great Mark Johnson really was. A lot of people see me, they know me, they don't know who. Like, oh, that's Mark. Okay, cool. But I feel like I'm the king of the flyweights
Mhm.
because when you look at the flyweights, you have never had a guy as dark as me to run it up like that. We never had a guy in the flyweight division that was like number 3 pound for pound. That was me. So I just feel like I didn't get the right fights because I think the LA Forum didn't pursue a lot of the right fights. And what kind of was crazy to me was that at 115 pounds, I was a world champion, and the LA Forum didn't even want to give me a signing bonus to sign me again. So
Wow.
that shows you where their loyalty was at. It wasn't with me.
Hagler went through the same stuff in his career, didn't he? As far as
I
being
mean,
avoided.
me and Hagler, I think me and Hagler got the same career. Everybody avoided us. We had to take fights that we didn't want to take, like even like the Raylan, Marvin Hagler fight, bigger gloves, bigger ring, and we took those fights because we knew that deep down in our heart that we was gonna beat those guys. But everything was going against us. You know, I can remember, I had to go lay down for a minute, take a little time, and chill out for like a year. But when I came back, they threw Rafael Marquez at me, but they would never throw him at me when I was at my peak.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I just feel like, and I know that, man, boxing is like organized crime, man. If you ain't with the right people, man, you ain't get the right money.
Yeah, well, it took I forget who the politician was, but it took a letter from a politician for Hagler, I think to Bob Arum, if I recall. But did you and Marvin ever talk about this? Did you
And
know Marvin?
I finally had the opportunity to meet him at the Hall of Fame when I went in. And he was telling me, he said, man, I'm your biggest fan. I said, what? And I'm just overwhelmed because when I see him, I want to run to him. And he called his wife over there. He said, you know what this is? She said, oh, that's Too Sharp. That's your favorite fighter. And I was like, what? So it kind of amused me that a guy that I've been looking up to, he said that we had the same style, we went through the same everything, and that he and his wife, when she came over there, she knew exactly who I was. So it was kind of big. It was big at the Hall of Fame.
Sure, sure. Where does the nickname Too Sharp come from?
Well, it come from one of my best friends. He was 6-0 as a pro. He got murdered in DC. I was shot with him as well. I happened to get away though, so I took that name to let him know he always be with me because I was a little sharp at that time.
Wow, wow, Too Sharp. Um, what was your biggest win of your career?
All of them. I mean, um, I think the most important one was to get the set the stage straight was the Alberto Raton Jimenez win. When I knew I never went past 6 rounds and I beat him in a 12-round fight. He had just came off a fight with Yuri Bajikov for WBC. And at that point, the LA Phone still didn't have a contract on me. So after that fight, they was like, "Oh, we want to sign me." You know what I mean? So I think that was one of the biggest wins. But the Arthur Johnson fight was like that was economics because Arthur Johnson and my brother used to fight.
Hmm.
So me and Arthur Johnson was good friends, and we still great friends now. But it was a business opportunity.
And you stopped him, what, like in the first or second round, if I recall?
Oh, first round.
First round.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made quick work of Arthur.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean, you know, the main thing is that to solidify my career was Johnny Tapia, Danny Romero. You know, those guys like that, Prince Ahmed, Junior Jones. You know, all those guys in their weight divisions. You know what I mean? So, to show people how great I really was. But when I got the opportunity to get to the number one contender and Danny Romero grew up the belt, to me that was like, wow, they do that. And then I get to 115 and call out Johnny Tabby, and he give up the belt. Like, so how can I do this? I'm trying to call everybody out, but they don't want to fight.
and as we talked about, obviously there was a big fight last night, a trilogy with Chocolatito and Estrada. What did you think of the fight? And was it the right decision?
I think it was. I'm gonna say one thing. I think it was a great fight. I don't think none of them guys would have been able to compare with guys like me and Michael Carbajal, Shakur Gonzalez. You know, Chocolatito, he done a great job, but he never cut the ring off. See, when you deal with guys like me, Michael Carbajal, Shakur Gonzalez, Danny Romero, Johnny Tabby, you know, we looking for those mistakes so we can cut the ring off. You know what I'm saying? And I seen Chocolatito let him get around that corner a lot. But I just think that you know, they couldn't beat us. I'd outbox both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now Estrada looked good. Estrada looked good, but see, Estrada was a guy that I would have had to make Estrada come to me. Chocolatito is a guy I'm gonna let come to me too, because I can outbox him like Estrada. But I just think that when it comes to guys like me, Michael Carbajal, Chiquita Gonzalez, Danny Romero, I mean, Ricardo Lopez, I just think that, man, you know, I think all us had better, more skills than them. Right now, they just walking and punching. I think all of us had better skills.
Even Chocolatito, who's considered a first ballot Hall of Famer, you feel like?
I don't see nothing special in him. I mean, I like him. He's a pressure fighter. I seen a guy get old in the ring, just like I did. But I don't see nothing special with him.
What
Now,
about, go ahead.
now, when it comes to guys like me and Michael Carbajal and those guys, 'cause I seen Carbajal in the ring, you know, I just don't see though. I just don't see those guys being number one Hall of Famers. I mean, number one ballot. Even though I was the number one ballot because people ducked me. They Danny Romero ducked me, Johnny Tapia ducked me, Michael Carbajal ducked me, Shaquille Gonzalez ducked me. That's why I was the number one ballot. But who did anybody duck him? Ain't nobody duck him. So why he
Right.
a number one ballot? What did he do to be a number one ballot? You just lost your last two fights. Ain't nobody who ducked him.
Mm-hmm. What about guys like Nonito Donaire and the Monster? Would those guys be too big for someone like you?
I like Nonito. Great guy. We had a good time at the Hall of Fame and everything, man. Me and Nonito been good friends for a long time. Um, I just think that when it comes to certain guys like that, timing is everything. Because Hoy Arce at some time we boxed and sparred. Hoy Arce was 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this guy's gonna be a champion. You know what I mean? So I just think no need to them. Timing is everything. And I just think me, Carbajal, and us guys, we came in at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Timing is everything. We just came in at the wrong time. If we came in at this time right now, all us would be multi-millionaires and all us would be rich. Because you know what? Me and Michael Carbajal was in the 80 Olympic trials. Guess what? Look, come on, Nonito. Come on, Carbajal. Let's get the round robin again. Let's get a tournament. See, they ain't
Yeah.
doing that no more.
Right.
I would love to
Right.
see. I would love to see. I would love to see a Shakur Stevens, a Devin Haney, a Tank, a Ryan Garcia, a Hector Garcia. I would love to see that tournament like Don King did with Trinidad in it. So let's go back to the old days. But see, everybody's chasing the money and they don't want to fight. I would just want to be a great guy to say, guess what? I got money, but you don't want to fight nobody.
Mhm. Speaking of the guys you just mentioned, and I was actually wanting to ask you about the Tank, Kingry. You got Tio, Devin, Shakur. Who's the best out of those guys, in your opinion?
I say this: Tank is the strongest. And I like that whole crew because I know all that. I like the whole crew. I mean, I think Tank is the strongest. I think Shakur and Devin Haney are the best boxers. I think Ryan Garcia is the odd man out.
What about
I
Teofimo?
think
Putting Teofimo in there.
I think he's the odd man out. I think Teofimo, he's a stronger guy. I think if it was me, let Teofimo Ryan Garcia bump, and then the winner of that fight, the winner of probably Devin Haney, Shakur, or Shakur and Devin Haney. But I think that should be a tournament. I think that should be a tournament. I think the promoter should get out of the way and say, hey, let's let these young guys have a tournament the same way Don King did with the middleweight. Because all these guys can fight, man. All of them. And all of them, got amateur experience. They sparred before. This should be a lightweight tournament.
Now, you said Tank being the strongest. Does that mean you think he's the best out of the crop at this point?
No, I said the strongest. I ain't said the best. See, I feel like this. I think Tank is the strongest because of his knockout ratio. When it comes to Devin Haney and Shakur Stevens, to me, I think both of those are the best boxers. I think they're even. They're the best boxers. I don't think Teofimo Lopez is a boxer, and I don't think Ryan Garcia is a boxer. But I do know that both of those guys is bringing it. But I think Tank is the strongest out of all of them, and I think Devin Haney and Shakur is the best boxers.
So we've got one fight that's been announced, Tank and Ryan, assuming they each get through their next fight, I think in January. Who do you like in that fight?
One thing about me, I never liked the tune-up fights. I can remember Pernell Whitaker for her Hurtado Diablos. I think that's his name. And that was supposed to be a tune-up fight, and he supposed to fight Oscar De La Hoya. And Hurtado was beating Pernell Whitaker for like 10 straight rounds. But Pernell ended up stopping him in the 11th round. But guess what? It almost caused Pernell a big fight. So I don't really play that tune-up fight. It really no tune-up. But I will say this: I think that when it comes to those guys, when it comes to Ryan Garcia and Tank and all those guys, I think Garcia is a good fight with Tank because he's straightforward. He's not a boxer. He's gonna be there, and Tank can hit him. So that's a good fight for Tank.
So are you predicting a Tank knockout?
Yeah, I would say Tank stop him because he's right there. Where he's going at, he don't move. He's right there. He's not gonna do nothing. You know what I mean? And I would like to even see. I don't know how to work, but I would like to throw Gary Russell in the mix. He's smaller, but I like to throw him in the mix. I would like to have Gary Russell on the undercard, throw him in the mix. It's in DC, and then see what may happen after that.
When you were growing up, Too Sharp, obviously Sugar Ray Leonard from your neck of the woods. Were you a fan of Sugar Ray?
Go ahead. You got me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Were you a fan of Sugar Ray Leonard? He's from the Maryland area.
I mean, if you come from DC, everybody's fan of Sugar Ray Leonard. You know what I mean? So, but I wanted to be better. I set my goals to become everything that he wasn't. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it was kind of cool that I ended up becoming a Hall of Famer. He was there when I went in, and that was very big for me. A first time Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? And it wasn't because of the fights that I had. It was because of the fights that people that ducked me. You know what I mean? So when people ducked me with those fights, I mean, that's what it was. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I'm sure having someone like Sugar Ray there, one of the best to ever do it. How would Too Sharp fare against a young Manny Pacquiao?
Listen, we posed a fort. We supposed to fought in 1996. I had the IBF title. He had the WBC title. We were supposed to unify the titles. This when he first went to Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach told him, "Don't fight me." That was in '96. He had the WBC, I had the IBF. So he ducked me too.
So you guys actually crossed careers?
Yeah, we supposed to fought. He had the WBC title in the 112-pound title in 1996. I had the IBF in 1996. We were supposed to unify, and Freddie Roach said, "Nah, you don't want to fight him." So I've been get ducked by a lot of people, man.
What would a fight if, I mean, two southpaws, fast, you know, obviously he was a lot younger back then, but what would a fight like him be like?
At that time, I was fast and young. I'd have beat Manny Pacquiao to death. I'd have beat him down. Now, as he got a little older and went up in weight, and I would say one thing, I don't say a lot of stuff, but I will say this. I went to 118. That's the biggest weight I could make. And Rafael Marquez, I beat him the first time, and they came back and said I lost. And then the second time, Rafael Marquez stopped me. But I couldn't go over 118 pounds. So I don't put no stuff out there, but I'm just trying to figure out how I got to go from 112 to 154 and control that weight and control that power. I couldn't do it at 118. So I'm going to leave that alone. We're going to leave that for the people to say, okay, well, what that mean?
Too Sharp, you mentioned earlier about guys chasing money now, you know, instead of legacy, I guess would be the alternative. Another big opportunity for 2 pound for pound grades, Errol Spence here out of Dallas, and Terrence Bud Crawford not happening, at least not right now. What are your thoughts on all that? And who do you like if that fight ever does happen?
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you something. I love both of those guys, but I feel like Terrence Crawford is the better boxer. I feel like Errol Spence is a stronger fighter. So it's whoever take control of the fight within the first or second round will win that fight. If you allow Errol Spence to back you up and use his power, then Terrence Crawford will be in trouble. But if Terrence Crawford can allow himself to box and move within 1 or 2 rounds, then he can control the fight with his boxing. But it's going to be, the main thing is going to be who can control the fight. And a lot of people that don't understand boxing be like, well, what does that mean? That means that if Errol Spence can come out there and start controlling the fight in round 1 and 2 and back Crawford up, then he controlling the fight. If Terrence Crawford control the fight by outboxing Errol Spence, then guess what? Errol Spence control the fight. So that's what I tell people. Whoever can control the fight will win that fight.
Who do you think would control that fight if it ever happens?
Well, you know, like I said, it depends on who control the fight from round 1 and 2. I like both guys, but whoever control the fight between round 1 and 2, that's who will win the fight. Boxing is about controlling, and you know, styles make fights.
Styles make fights. Talk about what you're doing now, Too Sharp. I know you're training fighters still in the boxing business. Talk about what you're doing.
Oh, I'm just training fighters right now in boxing business. I'm taking care of a lot of stuff. Most importantly, I'm working with the at-risk youth in Washington, D.C., what I love to do. Right now, I got a new program I'm starting called Morning Moms with my wife. For people that's, you know, dealing with murders and stuff like that, that's mourning kids. So other than that, man, you know, I'm just taking it easy, one day at a time. I just working with DC government.
Good for you, man.
But I will be at that tank fight. Are you gonna be there? Because you know you're my cousin.
I'm your cousin. Everyone's your cousin, though. I don't know if there'll be enough room for all your cousins.
Yeah, man. But look, I need you to come on down.
That's right at the beginning of the year, right? First part of January.
Yep.
And then hopefully we'll get the Ryan Garcia Tank Davis fight.
Well, I'm definitely gonna be at the Ryan Garcia fight. I know you might miss the January 7th, but man, you're gonna be together at the Ryan Garcia fight if that definitely happens.
Hey, from your mouth to God's ears, I hope so. Too Sharp, like I said, a legend in the sport, may not always get the love you deserve, but I think as time goes on, I start to see your name more and more in social media. I think people are starting to realize how great you really were. Like you said, your timing, may have been a little bit off, but there's no doubt that you're one of the best to ever do it. And you're also one of the funniest guys in boxing, like I said.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate it. So I'm here. You got the numbers. Let's get together anytime you want, bro.
Thanks, Tushar.
Say no more. Gone.